Hello, my name is Jeff Feige. I am a senior pre-sales engineer with IGEL Technology. In this mini how-to, I am going to show you how to update our Linux firmware, whether it's the UDC2 or our Linux hardware, from a Windows CIFS share. One thing I always like to point out, edocs.igel.com is a great resource for manuals for our devices, manuals for the UMS, a bunch of great FAQs, good stuff here. To grab the firmware, head on over to myigel.biz. If you are using our hardware, you'll want to go to IGEL Universal Desktop Firmware LX V5 and grab the firmware that you want. In our case, it would be 507-100, but we are going to be performing this on a Universal Desktop Converter virtual machine. So this, it's the same process, and it's the same firmware for the most part. We go to Universal Desktop Converter, Updates, UDC2 V5, and grab, in our case, 507-100. So if you do need to open a support case, head on over to igel.com, go to Service and Support, log in, and the support team will help you out. You can create an account here if you do not already have one. So this is the Management Suite console. I'm hoping you're familiar with it. Our thin client here is this one, this UDC2 running 506-100. And there are a few profiles applied to it. Let's remove this one. We don't need that. There are a few profiles applied to it, which, shadowing and a host file for our RM server, and nothing really spectacular. And we'll be creating a couple profiles. But first, let's create the share, the CIFS share that the thin client will update from. I'm going to put it on my management server. So let's make a connection here to the root of the management server. And there we go. I already have the zip file downloaded on my desktop, and now all I need to do is create a share. So we'll create a folder and call it firmware, and we'll unzip these items to this folder. Alright, now that that's done, we're going to go to Properties, Sharing, Advanced Sharing. We're going to share this folder. We'll leave the share name at firmware, set our permissions for everyone read, great, apply, OK, close. So now we have a share called firmware on IGEL RM server. Excellent, and it contains our firmware updates. This is all we need. So now we'll go over here and create a couple of profiles. You can put these together if you like. I like to split them apart for flexibility. But first one I'm going to create is firmware CIFS source. And we want to base this on a Linux or a UDC2 firmware, not a Windows firmware. And we'll leave everything else the same. Click OK. Go to Network. Network drives, and this process will also work for an NFS share. You'll be a very similar process anyway. So local mount point, you can make this anything you want. I'm going to leave it at the default. We'll need to remember that for the next step. My server is my IGEL RM server. Just make sure that this can be resolved by the thin client. The share name is firmware, as we set, and the username can be any user on the device, or on the domain, since we set it to everyone. And that should do it for this profile. And now we'll create our second one, firmware CIFS update. Same thing, choose a Linux based on, and leave everything else the same. And here we'll go to System, Update, Firmware Update. Turn this guy on and set it to File. Set our server path as SMB mount. This is the path that we had in the network portion before. I said you needed to remember. And that is pretty much it. We'll save it. We're going to create a new organizational unit here, new directory called CIFS firmware update. We're going to apply these two profiles to this folder, so they're both there. And we're going to move our UDC2 into this folder and say now. So it's going to shut down the network and restart it and mount that share. I have a local terminal on here, so I'll show you a troubleshooting technique as well, so that we can make sure that it's working. So it's back up and running. We'll open the terminal and we'll go to SMB mount, and we should see, well, we don't see anything in there. So let's probably my credentials are wrong, so let's go back to the source and I'll use some credentials that I know should work. Nothing like troubleshooting in a how-to video. All right. I know this will work. Say now. We'll apply it. Say now. Let's go back to our thin client. And there are our files. That's a little bit better. All right, so now at this point, we can right-click on the device and go to Update. Click on Update, and the device should download and update its firmware from the CIFS share. We'll wait for this to finish. The device will reboot, finish up the last piece, and we'll double check to make sure that the firmware is updated, and we're done. Hopefully. Okie dokie, so let's go here to About, and our device is now 507.100.01, updated from a CIFS share. Again, my name is Jeff Feige, and I hope this was helpful to you, and have a great day.